Welcome to another episode of First Byte, our Detroit Lions preview podcast. We are back. It is week 14, and we find ourselves with a familiar foe, the Chicago Bears, the team the Lions had played just 3 weeks ago. We are going to break it down here for you in the next 30, 45 minutes or so. My name is Jeremy Reisman, by the way. I'm the producer over at Pride of Detroit. You can find me at Detroit Online on Twitter. With me, as always, co-hosting this ship again, is senior editor of Pride of Detroit, is at Ryan_POD, is Ryan Matthews. Ryan, buddy, we're back at it.
We're back at it. I think you've had enough time to get some rest and recover from the Movember, 24-hour charity stream. I just find co-hosting the ship to be fascinating each and every week. And this time I feel like we're on a Carnival cruise. Co-hosting a ship feels like a cruise.
Sure. Yeah,
but the Lions better not be on cruise control.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
I was thinking like cruise, maybe hair whipping in the wind, Soldier Field. You nailed it.
It's a good point. I just wanted to bring in car talk.
Appreciate that. Well, one of the features of this podcast, our preview podcast, is you don't have to hear us blathering on for the entire time. You get to get an expert on the other side of the opponent. And this week is no different at all. She is the host of Helmets and Heels over on Jacksonville Radio at 101XL. Also, the host of Making Monsters for our friends at Windy City Gridiron. Taylor Dahl is here. Taylor, welcome to the show.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. Very happy to have you here. As happy as we can to have a Bears fan here. No offense.
I get it. I get
it. But we like to start this podcast doing the opponent's offense versus the Lions' defense to kick things off. And I feel like every time I have a Bears guest here, I have to start with the Justin Fields question because it's such a fascinating situation. The Bears are tumbling towards a first overall pick. Granted, not their own first round pick, but they're getting one, maybe the first overall pick. So quarterback is obviously on the table. But Justin Fields is kind of starting to play good right now. So where do you personally stand on your opinion of Justin Fields, and then maybe also what your thoughts on what the Bears might do this offseason?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, my opinion does not stand for everybody. And what I've noticed this last probably 3-4 weeks is Bears Twitter, social in general, is very divided on that. I personally am a keep Justin Fields in that camp. I think that everything that you've asked Justin, he's been given a lot of crappy situations in the first couple years, especially this year. It's mainly he was giving a lot of the surroundings that he needed, but unfortunately injuries and Luke Getsy specifically have kind of screwed up a lot of things that were supposed to go the right way. But the first 2 years were it was a little bit of a mess from bottom to top. So I think that this was the first real year that we could truly feel like we could evaluate Justin Fields, and then we lost him for 4 weeks. So that was really unfortunate. But for me, almost every single thing that you've asked Justin to get better at, he has. Maybe it's taken a little longer than what you've wanted, but he's been able to develop a lot of the issues last year where, hey, like, why is he so good at when it comes to like deep passes and making the like explosive plays, but not being able to throw it 10 yards or 15 yards for a completion? And we've seen that get better a lot this season. And so there's certain things like that to me that when I'm watching game by game, I'm like, this guy's getting better. And I think that he's only going to get better, especially if you continue to surround him with things that are helpful, and a play caller, which I know we'll get to that. But I'm definitely in the keep Justin Fields camp, give him another year. I also part of that, I don't completely love Caleb Williams. And I know that's a whole different topic. I know a lot of people think he is going to be the next best thing, and maybe in 4 years I'm biting my tongue on that, but I just watched being a Notre Dame fan, watching him firsthand through that, and just kind of through college football in general this year, I wasn't massively impressed. I think the same issues he has is what Justin has, so we'd be just starting over with the same thing almost. Granted, he'd be put in a much better situation than Justin was in 2021.
Yeah, a little bit of the old, sometimes the grass isn't always greener on the other side, right?
Yeah.
How much better, though, Taylor, has this offense looked? I mean, I know it was fun, like the Tyson Bagent story was cool for a little bit, but like how much better, and I know it's a small sample size, but how much more encouraged are you by the offense, and how much better does it look with Justin at the helm?
It immediately looks more fun with Justin, which maybe all the time isn't what people want, because Tyson Bagent, you saw he pulled out 2 wins in the 4 starts that he had to be out there. And so that's good. But at the same time, the defense also started playing a lot better right during that time. So it was almost like a switch where Justin kind of had this, just the beginning of the defense starting to click, and then had to hand over the offense to the backup quarterback who really got to take advantage of that. But the offense with Justin, it just, also play calling again. It's hard for me to say this consistently because I feel like a lot of it is Luke Getsy. When Luke Getsy lets Justin do what Justin's good at, which is let's do more play action, let's do RPOs, let him use his legs, do things like that. The offense runs so smoothly with Justin, and it's so much fun. There's big explosive plays, but there's consistency. They're converting third downs like crazy, which was a big struggle towards the end of last year and the beginning of this year. And all of that really started to change. So to me, that's a lot of the positives that we're looking at. And it's a different offense when Justin's out there. And I think that's what scares me a little bit, is that we're finally getting to that point where there is some comfortability. Obviously, DJ Moore and all of these other factors, the offensive line being healthy, and then now we're going to give up on him, and which I really hope we're not. But it's definitely, it just looks better. It looks cleaner. It looks more efficient when he's out there. And I think a lot of that is just that he does have that little extra oomph that some quarterbacks don't have. Sometimes it affects him in a negative way, because I do think he tries to push things sometimes when he shouldn't. But yeah, the offense is just, to me, massively different when Fields is on the field.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned Getsy and you know how much better the offense is when they get Fields on the move with the RPOs, with the play action. That's what we saw against the Lions for 3.5 quarters.
Yeah.
And then the fourth quarter happened, and they went into a complete shell, and the Lions took advantage of that. So yeah, let's talk a little bit more about Getsy, because then he follows that up the following week with the very intriguing Monday night game against the Vikings with a game plan of wide receiver screen and wide receiver screen.
Yeah.
What was that about? What was the explanation, I guess, given about that game plan? And is that something that like just is going to pop up every now and then? Luke Getsy is going to just do something weird, and I mean, I guess it technically worked, but even you went to that the game winning drive. That's not what they did. Like, they actually opened up the middle of the field, and it worked.
Yeah, it's so frustrating, and that's not the first game it's happened this season. I personally was at the Tampa game earlier at week 2, I believe it was, and the same exact thing happened, to where the Tampa Bay Bucks defense literally were like, we knew they were going to run the screen on that final play, so I knew exactly where to go, and it ended up being Justin throwing a pick on the goal line because they ran a screen pass on the goal line, and exact same thing kept happening in Minnesota. And I truly don't understand. Getsy's explanation was they were taking what the defense was giving them, but that doesn't make sense to me. I get, like, Minnesota obviously blitzes a ton. They go after quarterback. That's kind of their thing. But Justin, one of the weaknesses that he had previously was he holds the ball too long. That's one of the things they've been working on. That number has steadily increased throughout the season when he has been able to release it a little quicker. But it's one of the situations where when you look at it, PFF, I'm not like, there's sometimes where I'm like, these PFF things are weird, and sometimes I'm like, okay, they're factual. So I never truly know what to take from them. But PFF has Justin, when it comes to 20+ yard throws, deep throws, ranked 7th in like passer and in the league. And then between like 0 and 10 yards, he has like the 3rd best passer rating. And behind the line of scrimmage, he's the 7th worst. Yet he throws the 9th most passes behind the line of scrimmage in the NFL. And I was like, this makes entirely no sense to me. And Getsy keeps doing it. So I truly don't understand. I don't know if it's Getsy not trusting Justin, or some of it, a couple of Bears reporters came out and said it was more of Justin's decision and some of that game. Like they were running RPO and he was choosing to go with that pass behind the line of scrimmage, which I'm sure on some of the situations it was that, because there's somebody in his face in a couple seconds when it comes to Minnesota. But I do also think like you just said, you saw it at the end of the game, what you're able to do when you open it a little bit, when you give Justin a long run, you let him throw it past 15 yards. And then all of a sudden you're in field goal range in 30 seconds. And like, that's just kind of how the offense works. But so I can't quite figure out why Getsy wants to run with the screens so much. I truly don't know. I have a conspiracy theory about it. He came from Green Bay and he's trying to sabotage Justin Fields and the Bears. That's what I'm going with, because that's what it's felt like all season.
Yeah, it feels like that might be the only rational explanation, right? Yeah, so I mean, let's talk a little bit about the skill position players for the Bears, just because maybe, you know, part of those wide receiver screens are, let's get the ball in DJ Moore's hands because the guy runs like a running back and he's built like a running back. But you know, outside of DJ Moore, like I got to ask it, why is Justin Fields kind of allergic to Darnell Mooney? It seemed like Tyson Bagent wanted to go to him all the time. But I did 5 questions with Windy City Gridiron, and they mentioned that over the last 7 games, you know, Mooney's averaging less than 2 targets per game with Fields. So I guess kind of maybe answer that question and then kind of let us know, are there any other skill position players rather that, you know, the line should be on the watch?
Yeah, it is truly weird, and I can't totally figure that out either because I love Darnell Mooney. Obviously, he's a smaller receiver, but I think he makes big plays, and we saw last year when he was the #1 receiver, he's still able to get up in the air and get the ball and get those 50-50 catches. And this year, it was ideal because we thought him being able to move to like wide receiver 2 was going to excel him like he did a few years ago when he was in that wide receiver 2 spot behind Allen Robinson. But it just hasn't worked, and I don't know. To me, it's just some weird connection between him. Justin Fields, obviously, DJ Moore is easy. That's an easy guy to get the ball to and know that not only he's going to catch it, but he'll also probably get another 5 to 15 yards after the catch, which you want. The Bears were dead last in YAC last year, so it was nice to be able to see that this year. But he also has found a lot of connection with Cole Kmet. And Kmet is a name that I would say is steadily getting better in Chicago, steadily becoming one of the weapons that Justin is trusting more, that Bears fans are wanting him to throw to more. And it was a question mark for a little bit because before last year, when you were looking at his progression of touchdowns, it was like 0, and you were super concerned, like, okay, now we're going to have to go find another tight end. And then he ends up getting 7 touchdowns, and now this year he's back on track to pass yardage and touchdowns for the Bears. So that's, if you're naming another weapon, I'd say DJ Moore and Cole Kmet have been Justin's go-tos this year. And then obviously the run game. The run game is so important for the Bears still, even though they have passed the ball a lot more this season. It's still definitely the focal point of what they like to do. And part of that is just because Justin can do it. But and in that realm, it's just kind of the situation where it opens so much more when you are able to run the ball, obviously. And then next thing you know, you look down the field and DJ Moore is just standing there, or Cole Kmet standing there. But I'm a little bummed for Mooney just because like I said, I truly thought it was going to be a year of him where we'd be able to see like true wide receiver 2 numbers. And he would be able to be not technically the safety blanket, because I guess that would be DJ Moore. But when DJ Moore is getting double covered, you'd hope it'd be Mooney, and it just hasn't happened that way.
Well, you mentioned the Bears' run game, and obviously Justin Fields is a huge part of that, especially when they decide to actually lean into that part of his game and not just resort to him scrambling, which he's also very good at. But you know, this is a really talented team that will run between the tackles on you. The Lions were able to bottle up Khalil Herbert and Donta Foreman and Roschon Johnson last time. But can you explain how good they've been the rest of the year and how much of that is the talented backs? You know, I think Herbert is a guy that'll, you know, a lot of people in Chicago think is potentially a top tier back in this league. But obviously the offensive line getting healthy, getting better has a part to do it. So kind of tell me the mix between what's been making Chicago successful on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, I think a large part of it is knowing when to run the ball, and the Bears, when they run on the right side, have been super successful when they run to the right. What we noticed during Detroit is they kept running to the ball to the left, and that was a comment we kept saying, is like, I don't really quite understand. Again, I don't know Luke Getsy, what he's doing. We also had our running back coach fired this season too, so who knows what's going on in that realm. But it's interesting because when you watch it, Khalil Herbert obviously was hurt and missed a good amount of games, and Donta Foreman came in, and you didn't notice a difference in the run game, and that's massive. Even when Justin Fields was out and you're not relying on his legs, we were still able to run the ball pretty steadily. But I think it's a combination of a lot of things, but I do think a large part of it is when the line is healthy, it just works so much more and it works so much better. They also, sometimes you'll see them throwing out, you know, a chip blocker, and you'll see a tight end get out there, which also helps. But for me, when you look at our run game in general, you see Khalil Herbert, who obviously is our one, but they've been able to mix it up enough to where you're not really sure if they're going to use Herbert or Donta Foreman more at this point, which I guess bums out some Bears fans for Foreman or fantasy owners of Khalil Herbert. But it's just, to me, it's a good balance, and that's why it works. Because the one problem that we had last year too is why they started catching up when it came to the run game. The run game was super strong in the beginning of the season, kind of started fizzling off. I think a large part of that was because it was just so predictable. They knew that's all the Bears could do. And now that they go from maybe only throwing the ball 18, 19 times to higher 20s, that opens up things. It opens up more for the running backs to be able to use that. I think they're both just really good at finding lanes too, because you'll see they're actually a little different. I want to say Foreman is one of the ones that will kind of just like run you over, and Khalil's good at finding the lanes. So they're different backs too, so you can use them in different situations. And that's one of the things that I think has helped with the success of the third downs too, because like I said, it was really bad for a while, and the times when it was bad was when Khalil Herbert wasn't playing. So that's definitely an improvement we've seen.
Yeah. And Taylor, I guess the last question to kind of wrap us up here is, you look at maybe the Lions defense, and I know, Aleem McNeil just got put on IR. As a Bears fan, you have obviously saw the game a few weeks ago. And Chicago they did what they wanted to do on offense. But like, is there anything about Detroit's defense that kind of worries you coming into this game as a Chicago Bears fan, if you're putting on your Luke Getsy hat?
I mean, I think the first thing you want to say is Hutchinson, because he just terrifies me. I think that Darnell Wright did a pretty decent job for the majority of the game, but obviously the game ended because he was able to get around him and get to Justin and force a fumble, and the game exploded that way. And unfortunately, that's one of the major things. If I could say anything left for Justin to work on, it's ball security. Yeah. I mean, everything else I think he's gotten better at. Turnovers have lessened everything else, but for some reason, he just fumbles the ball too much. And I think part of that is, I mentioned earlier, he pushes a lot of things. And sometimes maybe when you just saw Minnesota, when he fumbled, it was a play. He was just trying to get that first down yardage, and he was pushing through an entire defensive line. And it just doesn't work when you're slinging the ball around in one hand. But so to me, I guess that's one of the things that I obviously am scared of, because I think that Hutchinson is going to be someone we're going to have to worry about for a long time. You mentioned I work in Jacksonville too, so I was so angry when they took Trayvon and not Aiden Hutchinson. So that's just a whole different world. I was like, not only are you screwing me in Jacksonville, but now I have to face him in Detroit too. Like, what the hell? But yeah, I think that even it's a big loss with McNeil, but I also think just the way the line plays in general, obviously Kaminsky and Hutchinson, there's enough up there that you can, I think, plug and play some guys and maybe rotate them out a little bit. You may have to, because you'll have to find guys who have that evenness of McNeil. He could run block and he could pass rush. He could get added some pressure to the quarterback. So finding somebody who can do both of those at a high level is hard. But when you have the Lions do right now, I think you can really plug and play and rotate some guys in there and make it work. So I would say that, and I would say the run defense, because like I said, when the Bears offense runs way better when they're able to run the ball. And the moment you're able to shut down the run, I feel like things kind of collapse a little bit. So, and they sit right there with the Bears. Honestly, I think the Bears have second fewest rushing yards allowed. The Lions are only a few spots behind them in that. So they've been really good at it. So that's kind of what scares me the most in that realm.
Yeah. And that's fair. I mean, I think that, whoever does step in for Aleem and the Lions haven't been completely transparent about who that's going to be. They've just kind of listed all these guys are going to have their chance.
Yeah.
Whoever it is, I think we can probably agree, Ryan, it's going to be someone who's run defense first. That's their main goal every single week. And so, like I said, they did a good job against the running backs, but Justin Fields has been a thorn in this team's side. Literally 3 straight games of 100 rushing yards or more against the Lions. So we'll see if the Lions are able to slow that down this week. But let's take a break. When we come back,
make it 4. We can make it 4.
I mean, I think they will, but we'll see. We'll see. I can't give up my predictions yet. Here we go. Let's take a break here. When we come back, we'll talk about the Lions offense going against that Bears defense, which is getting a little bit better now. And we'll talk about that more when we come back here on First Byte. Okay. Just a second to address our live audience here. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. If you guys spent any of our 16 hours with us on Thursday, appreciate you coming on back. I got a little bit of energy after that, but I appreciate everyone who donated, everyone who hung out, who commented, all that sort of stuff. That was a lot of fun. And to the people that are here now, we got Lions1910 is now subscribed to us on Twitch for 38 months, says FTB. I'll let you figure out what that means, Taylor. And Saki Bomb, thank you for the 26-month subscribe to the channel. But we will get right back into it so that we can get Taylor in and out of here, and we'll hang out with the live audience a little bit after the show as well. So give us a second. We'll get right back into it.
Jeremy, be honest with everybody. You're just so excited to watch Thursday Night Football.
No one is excited. Like, if anything, we all want to go watch Patrick Kane play for the Red Wings today.
Yeah,
you're just breaking my heart.
Oh, I forgot. Oh, yeah. I didn't mean to twist the knife there. All right, here we go. And we are back here on First Byte with Taylor Dahl, breaking down Lions Bears Week 14. Bears trying to get revenge after just barely losing to them in Week 11, I think it was back then, in a really tight game. And I think we would be fools to think it won't be tight again here. Line currently Lions -3 or -3.5, depending on where you're looking. But you should always look at DraftKings Sportsbook. That's right. Little plug for some SB Nation love.
Well done.
But let's talk about that Lions offense going up against the Bears defense. Bears defense, very opportunistic in the first matchup, forced 4 turnovers against the Lions, 3 interceptions from Jared Goff, his only 3 interception game as a Detroit Lion. And then they go back the next week and create a quarterback controversy in Minnesota by picking off the Pastronaut 4 times. So let's start there. The turnovers. Do you feel like that's just, I mean, sometimes they come in waves and sometimes they feel fluky. Sometimes it's the result of a team getting better on defense. Mm-hmm. What do you kind of take from those 2 really good defensive performances? Was this something that just felt like a long time coming?
Yeah, I think realistically, you're not expecting 2-3 picks every game, but I do think that we should expect this to continue, at least starting to get turnovers consistently. A large part, I think they weren't for a while, is they hadn't had all their 4 defensive backs since week 1. Kyler Gordon went out in the third quarter of week 1 against the Packers, and he missed 6 weeks. And in between all of those 6 weeks, we also at one point had none of the starting defensive backs playing at one time. And so against Detroit was the first game of the season since quarter 2 of week 1 where all the defensive backs were playing together. So I think that was a really important thing. And I'll also preface that with saying that Tyreek Stevenson being a starting defensive back was a rookie too. So week 1, he was still coming into his own. And one of the things you constantly hear is how difficult the defensive back position is, probably one of the more difficult ones when it's that transfer from college to NFL, picking up the speed and really trying to get a grasp on things. At least every time I've talked to a coach, they list that position as one of the more difficult ones. So for me, obviously Tyreek kind of trying to figure things out in those first few weeks. No Kyler Gordon, then Eddie went out, and then Jalen went out, and it was just one thing after another for a while. So Detroit, unfortunately for you guys, got the Bears on their first, all 4 together for the first time of the season. And so you could see it immediately. They felt more cohesive. They felt like they were clicking. You could really tell they were reading off of each other in the right situations. And I think also Flus's whole thing as a defensive coach is the hits. So takeaways is part of that. He forced that a lot. That was a big thing when he was in Indianapolis. So we were more surprised that they weren't happening because it was such a big focal point of what he does in his defenses. And so to be able to finally feel like that's happening is really exciting. But I do think it's a combination of health, and I just think guys are getting better too. Kyler Gordon, obviously, in year 2, he's getting better. Jaquan Brisker, he's in year 2, getting better. Tyreek Stevenson as a rookie, getting better. And then Jalen Johnson right now is playing like one of the top corners in the league. So it's all happening right at the right time. He's in a contract year, so that's important for him. And I think that's a big part of it, is it's just the combination of, like I said, health, them all kind of just getting better as the season goes, and then also finally buying into what Flus's defensive mindset is.
Yeah, well, speaking of not being in the right place at the right time, Kyler Gordon in that last game, the penalty for his face mask falling apart.
I know.
That was wild. I've never seen that before in the NFL.
Because you didn't really know what was going on. The cameras were all over at first, but the moment he held up his helmet and it was flopping. I was like, how did he get a penalty on that? And then I love that the Bears posted the mic'd up of it though, because it made the NFL officials just look like idiots, which I know we all enjoy. Because I was like, you just completely missed that he was getting punched on the sideline.
They changed the call too, right? They're like, oh no, it wasn't that he took his helmet off, he was taunting him or something.
Taunting, yeah. And he was like, I was showing you my helmet was broken.
Incredible. No idea what happened to that.
Life as a Bear, I swear. Life as a Bear.
Yeah, but it was also funny too, because the broadcast kind of like insinuated that like the camera cut away long enough for him to like maybe go get a screwdriver or something to like
undo the helmet.
Like I was like, what? No, this is a levels of conspiracy theory.
I know. They were like, that doesn't just happen. And I was like, okay, you thought he just like went and did it himself real quick? Hey, let me take this off.
Yeah, wild. But yeah, speaking of things that are happening, the pass rush looks really improved. Is that just a matter of, hey, you upgraded at the deadline, you got somebody like Montez Sweat in? I mean, the DVOA numbers kind of back that up in terms of what the Bears have been able to do. And you did mention the backhand of the Bears secondary and their defense, but what kind of difference has Montez Sweat made? And are you noticing improvements from other players too, because maybe he's getting a little more attention?
For sure. I think that the defensive line was my biggest concern coming into this season. They didn't do much at all. They went and signed Andrew Billings, who actually has been a very under the radar good signing for the Bears. That was one where everyone was kind of like, who? Like what? Because obviously you want those big splash names, and they wanted a pass rusher in the offseason, and it didn't happen. But Billings has been a good pickup, and obviously they went and got Javon Dexter and Zach Pickens in the draft too. Javon Dexter has been fantastic, and every single week has gotten better. So I think that, to me, what stands out to me when it comes to the defensive line and how they've been able to create more pressure, I think number one, Montez Sweat is the big factor. I mean, this guy, almost every single play, he's creating some sort of pressure. And you see him around the quarterback almost every single play, but that does free up other opportunities for other guys. And I've seen that help Javon Dexter a ton. He's been able to now get close to the quarterback several times. He doesn't have a sack on the season. He almost got Goff. Goff got it out like a millisecond before, and I thought it was going to be his first sack, and I was going to be pumped, but that's helped him improve a lot. I think that Justin Jones started the season rough. Like the first 3-4 weeks, people were just like, okay, that's not working anymore. Whatever turned on and whatever clicked in his brain has started working, because now, and maybe that's a combination of just like progress and getting comfortable with who you're working around, because obviously, that's important. And when he's working with a couple rookies in the middle and trying to probably dictate a line, what they're learning the NFL at the same time. They also couldn't quite figure out the rotation too. Which is another thing that stands out to me. DeMarcus Walker, who is another signing they got in the offseason. We're playing him at edge a lot before because we didn't have another edge. It was Jan, and that's it. And so they were having to play him on the edge. But DeMarcus Walker in Tennessee last year had 7 sacks. All of them came from the interior. And so I was so confused as why they pulled him over here to be an end, when I was like, put him in the middle, if anything, and like go get somebody who can play on the outside. And that's what they did. And so I think it's a combination of that. They added guys who know how to get pressure from the inside. They added guys who really get good against the run on the inside, like Dexter, and now are figuring out how to create those pressures. And then you have a guy like Montez Sweat, who on the outside, I'm not talking about Jan, because I feel like I really don't see him barely at all. I wasn't a huge fan of the signing in general, so maybe I just am a little bit of a bummer on that one. But I think that Sweat has just been maybe that little final piece that they've needed to boost up the confidence up front, and just add that little extra layer of comfortability for the young guys that are now in the middle.
Yeah, I don't like the sound of that, Jeremy. I don't like the sound of the Bears being able to do stuff right along the interior in a week where they're probably going to be without Frank Ragnow.
Yeah, and it's been really fascinating too, because I think, Taylor, your anxieties about the defensive line were right in the first half of the season, right? The Bears were not creating a lot of pressure. They still are one of the teams with the few sacks, but you look at the past 2 weeks, they rattled Jared Goff enough for him to throw 3 interceptions. Then Minnesota's offensive line is almost as good as the Lions in terms of pass protection, and they rattled them all day. And so the trend arrow is up and up strong. And so I'm curious how the Lions are going to respond after they got tossed around a little bit by the Bears last time around and without Frank Ragnow. But they're also really good at run blocking or run stopping, I should say. One of the best run defenses in the league. The Lions were able to get going a little bit in that last matchup. So I guess let's start there. Do you have a sense of maybe what went wrong? And it wasn't terrible. I mean, I think the Lions ran for 110 yards, but they were the one of 2 or 3 different teams that were able to run for 100 yards on this vaunted Bears defense. So what went wrong that week? And what has maybe gone right or wrong since?
I think the David Montgomery curse on us is what happened.
Fair.
I truly, because I don't know, like there was nothing they were doing differently that game. It wasn't like they were missing anybody like super significant in that game. I want to say it was right when everybody really started to get healthy. Maybe that was it. They were still trying to kind of figure everything out. It was the first time they're all playing together. But up front, it's been pretty healthy. So I truly don't know. That whole game, I was getting a little frustrated because I was like, do not let Montgomery rush like 150 on us tonight. I'm going to be so angry. But I do slightly cheer for him. I will say that. I love David. He's awesome. But I just blame it on that. I blame it on that revenge game of players, which I truly believe in the guys have. Like sometimes they come in with that little extra juice and, and maybe it wasn't all Montgomery, but being able to him being in that running back room, being like, let's show them, I feel like was a piece of it. That's
fair. I think that makes sense. I mean, emotions are part of it. And as much as Montgomery tried to downplay it the entire week, people close to him knew that game meant a lot. And I'm kind of curious because I know Montgomery has said some things that weren't like totally blasting Chicago, but they also weren't innocuous in any way. Like there was. So where do most Bears fans kind of fall on that? Are they done with him? They hate him, or are they like you where it's like, don't beat us, but I remember the good times.
I had a little bit of anger because there was a few comments that he made where I was like, why are you, because it was something about the fans that I didn't like. Like, I don't care if you want to talk about the organization because it's been trash. Like it really has. There's been 500 quarterbacks and 500 head coaches and it's been terrible. You don't win a lot of football games. So I get it. It gets frustrating when you're on a team when you're not winning football games. Totally get it. Yeah. So if you want to bash the Bears as an organization, that's fine. If you want to bash even like certain coaches that were there previously, but not the fans, because the fans loved Monty and the fans were shouting to pay David Montgomery. They were the ones that were like, please give him money. Like we want to keep him. And it's not, if it was our choice, they would have paid him more than what, because I think he only got 6 from you guys. And we were like, give him 9 million. Like we don't care. And so that was a little hurtful just because, and I don't think he truly meant it that way. I think there was emotion into it. And he was also trying to like make Detroit fans feel good and be like, I'm here, I'm in Detroit now, so I get it.
Crapping on Chicago fans is a good way to win us over. I'm not gonna lie.
I get it. And so I think so I had a little bit of anger, but at the same time, looking back, like David Montgomery was great for the Bears, and he was also like, as a whole in his career in Chicago, we loved him. So I'm not gonna let one little comment deter me from liking him. But other fans probably are like, screw you, David Montgomery, because that's just what, once someone leaves Chicago, other fans hate them, Of
course,
yeah, it happens. So I guess, Taylor, one last question I have for you is, again, put on your defensive coordinator hat and assess this Lions offense. One guy we haven't really talked about is Amon-Ra St. Brown. He was the most targeted receiver when the Lions did play the Bears a few weeks ago. Is that an area of concern? Like, because it really feels like we're talking a lot about how the Bears are like trending the right direction on defense and the Lions are maybe trending the wrong way on offense with some injuries and things.
Well, yeah, and I don't want to take anything away. I like the Lions as a team. Like the beginning of the season, I picked the Lions to win the division on anything that I was in. I was very high on the Lions offense. I thought they did a lot on the defense to be able to improve it. So I don't want to take away from you guys and make it seem like I'm like the Bears are better than the Lions, because I truly don't feel like that right now.
Oh, it's kind of happening right now. And there are a lot of Lions fans, Taylor, who aren't happy with the whole team, right? Like but yeah.
Yeah, so and I think that we are in the moment right now. The Bears are in the weirdest spot ever because, like you said, like they potentially have the first pick. They potentially have 2 picks and like the first 3 picks, and they're trying to figure out what to do with the quarterback. They have a lot of young, really good talent. They have a lot of building blocks, but like, do you keep Eberflus? There's a lot of things going on. So when it comes to Detroit, for me, I think that injuries are unfortunate, and it's just, believe me, I can speak on it full-heartedly of how much they affect. And it's you guys lost your center, and that's huge, and it sucks because the biggest flaw on the Bears offensive line is the center. We don't have one, and we've seen multiple balls get snapped over Justin's head and between his legs, and we see guys just pancake the center and fall over him and get to Justin, and you don't want that. In addition, your center is kind of your anchor of your team, and your center is the one that a lot of guys obviously the snap count is relying on that and everything. So you hope that all of that stuff doesn't start catching up and getting false starts and pre-snap penalties, because that's something the Bears see a lot of just because of our center situation. But offensively, there's just so many dangerous things for the Lions too. And Amon-Ra, unfortunately, we have like both the other brothers. Like we have
right. The other Sewell, the other St. Brown. Yeah.
Yeah. And I Equinemius, whatever, he's fine. He's a good blocking wide receiver. When he's out there, you do see some differences. He's not the guy that's going to make the big play like Amon-Ra, but Noah we haven't seen much of, so I can't even comment on him yet. But you guys have it. We kind of joke about it. We're like, how did Detroit get both the good brothers? But Amon-Ra, like he's so good and he's so fun to watch. He's definitely one of the scariest parts of Detroit to me. And I mentioned Monty, but I'm honestly the most probably concerned with this game with Jahmyr Gibbs, because what his versatility is starting to get very threatening. And watching him, I'm like, man, he can run the ball, but you also see him catch it. You'll also see him receive, and he's got increasingly better in both of those, I feel like. And that's terrifying to me, because you already have a guy like Amon-Ra, and you already have a guy like David Montgomery, who are really good at those positions. Now you have a guy that can slide in and help both of those guys whenever they need it. So he's kind of what I'm like focusing on in this game of like, let's try to focus on like slowing down Jahmyr Gibbs. Obviously you have to stop Amon-Ra, but I'm confident in our defensive backs of being able to at least slow him down. You're not going to shut down him. Like he's just, St. Brown's one of those receivers that you never really say, hey, let's just completely shut him down. It's not going to happen. Let's hold him to, what did he have last time? 70 something yards. And I think it was like 78 yards or something like that. And that was too much. We need like less than 30 yards from Amon-Ra. But yeah, to me, the offense is scary. And Jared Goff goes through these phases where obviously we forced some turnovers last time, but then he goes through stretches where he's just very hard to get him to turn the ball over and make mistakes. So that's one of the things that we'll see this week. How much is not as losing your center going to affect us being able to rattle him even more? That's going to be a factor. But Detroit's offense is fun and it's fast. And obviously you saw what happened at the end of the game when they needed something to happen. They drove right down the field and made it happen. So that's the scariest part to me, is they're not ones that you can just completely shut down, because they'll find ways to make big plays when they need to.
Yep. Amon-Ra, 8 catches, 77 yards on 11 targets last matchup. So yeah, definitely had a big impact. Scored one of the touchdowns as well. So definitely a big impact that last game. It'll be interesting, because the Saints to me were the first team to really take away kind of St. Brown for most of the game. I mean, he still scored a touchdown, but only 2 catches, which is well below his weekly average. The problem was then Sam Laporta 8 like crazy. So again, it speaks to there's just a lot of weapons that you have to stop on this Lions offense. And the Bears did, a decent job, as good as pretty much anyone has this season in that previous matchup. But let's go to what we like to call the one thing we think we know. And I forgot to tell you this about Taylor, so this is going to be a little bit on the spot for you. But it's our prediction segment where we just say one thing we think we know. It doesn't have to be who wins, doesn't have to be the score. It can just be, hey, I think Justin Fields is going to run for 100 yards for the 4th straight game, or I think Cole Kmet is going to get 8 catches, whatever it is. But I'll make Ryan go first so you can kind of see how it works. So Ryan, what is the one thing you think you know about Lions Bears?
I finally took that as a compliment. It took me all the way until now, week 14, to say, let Ryan show you how it's done.
Yeah, you're the exemplar.
Oh man. Okay. All right. Too much pressure. So DraftKings Sportsbook. I think that they have the line a little bit wrong on Jahmyr Gibbs rushing attempts. See if this surprises you, Jeremy. They have it set at 9.5, and it's even money at over 9.5, which I find very interesting. I think that, Taylor mentioned, there was a heavy dose of Gibbs in the game prior. that the Lions and Bears played, and specifically, he was kind of used a little bit more of as a receiver. But I still think, nonetheless, like they went a little light on Gibbs last week, Jeremy. I think that there were more opportunities. There's a lot more meat on the bone in terms of, why just keep force feeding it to Montgomery when it looks like Gibbs is ready to, break a big play at any moment, and he did. He had that long, 30+ yard run. I just feel like maybe game script, see how the game. I feel like over 9.5 carries is a solid bet for anybody out there in listening land.
Interesting. So like David Montgomery, you got your revenge game. You got your 12 carries, 78 yards, and a touchdown against the Bears last time. Now we've moved past that. There's no revenge needed. You got your win. Let's get the rookie more involved. I like that. I dig that.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I can buy that. All right, Taylor, we're gonna go to you next. So here.
Okay.
What is the one thing you know about Lions Bears?
Okay, so do I need to do like a DraftKings stat line?
Not at all.
No,
Okay.
no, I'm a degenerate.
They don't even sponsor sponsor the podcast. They just sponsor the website. So
and they're not listening.
We gave them 2 free plugs.
Okay, so I was originally going to say that about the Justin running, because I just think that after what happened last week with 500 screen passes and all of them behind the line of scrimmage, and everybody shouting about it. I'm sure Justin was shouting about it, that they are going to change that game plan a little bit this week, but I'll switch it just because you used that one. So I'll throw it out there and say that Javon Dexter gets his first sack this week for the NFL. Like I said, he was close last time with Goff, and last week there were several where he was just a pinch away from getting it. I just had that feeling that it's coming. A few weeks ago, I called Tyreek Stevenson getting his first pick. Actually, it might have been against you guys. I tweeted a pick is coming from Tyreek Stevenson soon. Yep. He got his first NFL pick. So I'm going to say Javon Dexter gets his first sack this week.
That's a good one. I mean, I'm looking at the box score from last game. The Bears had 8 quarterback hits, and 2 of them came from Gervin Dexter. So it certainly seems like it's kind of the same thing we're talking about with, I feel like, on a weekly basis, Ryan, with Aiden Hutchinson. Like, the pressures are there. He's third in pressures, and he has 5.5 sacks. And you're like, how are these not turning into more sacks? I think you're right. They're probably just, at some point, there's positive regression coming for both those players, I think. Ryan, I notoriously hate Soldier Field week. I hate the field. I hate the all 22. I hate the weather.
Keep going.
And
the pizza pies. Keep going.
No. I you know what? I don't understand the hate on deep dish pizza.
I prefer Chicago to Detroit.
Okay, you didn't have to say that.
I love this podcast.
So, like, yeah, in the first matchup, I was here. I was on our newsletter screaming that don't take the Bears easily. They match up poorly for Detroit. And I only feel that way more, but I'm going to, because Lions are in panic land right now, despite the team being 9-3, I'm going to take the reverse course here and say that the Lions offense rebounds in a big way, and in particular in the passing game. I think I'm going to go out on a limb here and say the Lions are going to throw for 300 yards against the Bears, and I don't have a lot to back this up other than the fact that I think a lot of times when you see 2 teams go at each other, sometimes you get drastically different results, and maybe it's both teams kind of overcorrecting and changing what they do. The one little like morsel that I got from Ben Johnson today that I found very interesting was the fact we were talking about the weather, because anytime you play the Bears, weather is like one of the main storyline, and it looked early in the week like we were going to get some rain and snow mix. Now it looks like maybe it's just going to be cold, and Ben Johnson said, looks like the weather is trending in our direction. And that was a really curious comment for me, because if it was rainy and snowy, that usually means you're going to run the ball a lot, right?
Yeah. That's what the Lions love to do, Jeremy.
That is what the Lions love to do. So if we're getting clear weather and he says that's trending in our direction, maybe that means they're going to pass a lot, which I would love. Like, I want to see this offense open up a little bit more. I think they got too dependent on the run last week. I want to see them open up. They have, like you said, a ton of weapons. This isn't going to be me for the 10th time predicting a Jameson Williams breakout game. I'm not going to do that. But I would like to see them air it out a little bit more. If they don't get behind with all the turnovers this week, they won't have to necessarily be an obvious passing downs and put Jared Goff in tough situations like the first matchup. So I think they're going to be a little bit more balanced. I hope they don't fall behind early. And if that happens, I think maybe Jared Goff has a big bounce back game after a tough one against this team before.
I'm sure he's hoping so, because you could see his frustration so much the last time, and I was like, oh, Jared Goff, because I was like, and like it was so opposite for us, because I was like, wow, we can get picks. Right. I didn't know we knew how to intercept the football.
Yeah, I am scared a little bit of that Bears secondary though. I think they're underrated. Despite like you look at some of like the pass defense numbers for the Bears, and they're bad, but again, everything seemed to be trending in the right direction for them. Right now, including that pass defense. But we're going to close things out here. But before we do, Taylor, I want to give you kind of the floor here to promote your stuff, whether it's the Jacksonville stuff, the Chicago stuff, whatever you got in between as well. I would love to hear what you're working on.
Yeah, so I cover 2 different teams. I work at 1010XL in Jacksonville, covering the Jaguars, which I host a show called Helmets and Heels here. Very Jaguars centric, but we do love sports in general, especially college football down here. So it is a lot of college football talk. I always make sure to mix in my Bears stuff in there. So unfortunately, people here have to hear me talk about Chicago. Probably too much. We get them on the text line all the time. They're like, we don't care about Chicago. I'm like, I'm sorry. But yeah, so that's if you're interested at all what's going on in the AFC South in general, obviously a good place to go, because there are some cool things happening CJ Stroud's been playing really, really well. The Colts are surprising people. So there's some cool stuff happening in the AFC South that may be surprising to people. And then obviously Making Monsters for Windy City Gridiron. That's my podcast. And so that one is more based around, I pick a player each week who I think has like been performing well. And I kind of get their backstory of how they got to the NFL. So I talk to high school coaches, college coaches, brothers, moms, sisters, dads, whatever, and kind of get their story of how they got into football and how they, their the recruiting process and the draft process and all of that stuff. So it's really fun because you get to go beyond just the football, the X's and O's. We do talk X's and O's because it's a lot of coaches I talk to, but we go beyond that of, fun stories of how they even first got into football. Like Javon Dexter, I just did last week, and it was really fun because the dude didn't play football until his junior year in high school, and he played basketball, and his coach was like, hey, we need somebody to come play like on the defense. Can you do it? And he was like, sure. And 2 years later, he was getting recruited by Florida to play in the SEC. So it's wild stories like that are just really fun. So that's Making Monsters. So those are my main things. I know Detroit fans don't care too much about it unless you guys want to go steal one of our running backs again.
Yeah. Do you have a David Montgomery episode we can go back and listen to?
I think I do. I'm trying to remember if I did one last year or not. I had to have because I love Monty, but so there's I for sure did, because yes. So if you want to listen to the David Montgomery episode.
Cool. Well, that's actually a really cool, unique podcast, because I feel like a lot of people just do kind of what we do, which is like we just take the news as it comes. But to have kind of like a biography type of podcast, that sounds really cool and accessible to anybody, whether you're a Bears fan or not. You can be a fan of individuals, even if they're wearing those ugly blue and yellow uniforms. Orange.
Well, and it's fun too, like during draft season, for example. I do a lot of pre-draft stuff. So I did almost probably like 30 podcasts this off season between March and April on like potential draftees, and I did them based on the Bears, but it's still obviously informational for everybody, because I just go and I usually do players like expected to go in the first round, and then I did kind of beyond the first round players. And so it was cool because it could go back, and that's informational for anybody, because obviously if you guys end up drafting one of them, it works out. I ended up actually 3 of the guys I did episodes on, we ended up drafting. So it worked out like pretty well. But there's a lot of guys we did not draft that are on there. So
yeah, make sure you're following that during the off season, because everyone loves the draft.
Yeah. Except Jeremy.
You hate the draft?
We don't need to listen.
That's for a whole other podcast.
We're in a playoff run here. We don't need to say the D word. But let's get out of here. If you want to follow Taylor, you can follow her on Twitter at Taydell1010XL. Taylor, thank you so much for your time. Ryan, as always, thank you for your time. And of course, you listening at home, thank you for your time. Until next time, it's chaos. Be kind.
Recording stopped.
Okay. Good job. All right. That was fun. Thanks, Taylor.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks.
Giving all that information out.
Can we at least agree? Like, do not let the Packers come back and win this division, guys. Do not do it.
I did a Bears podcast this week, and they ended with the exact same thing. Just like, please don't let the Packers get into this. We're mad that you let them beat you on Thanksgiving. I guess we're even more mad about it. I can guarantee. But yeah.
We'll take care of business.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, not this weekend though.
Well, no, I mean,
Yeah.
you got to help us out. Listen. Well, listen.
Draft position, we can
Yeah.
both benefit. Justin Fields can look really good.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
let's
just not when it needs to happen.
Let's just replay what happened last time. I'll be
No.
stressed out, but like
That was the worst 3 minutes
no,
ever.
but
The little dance, the little shimmy.
Yeah, a little salsa.
you got to feel really good about your team for 3.5 quarters, and then you got
I
a better
know.
draft pick out of it.
Literally for 57 minutes, we were on top of the world.
Well, all right, Taylor. We'll let you go. Thanks again.
Thanks.
I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome. All right, bye.
You're welcome. Take care.
Boop. No, I don't want to report Taylor. I just wanted. Don't report. Cool. That was fun.
Those blue and yellow uniforms.
I don't listen. I am still a little sleep deprived. I'm not gonna lie.
Might have been all the FTPs in the chat.
Maybe
you're just seeing yellow.
And plus, I think just as a Michigan fan, sometimes when I just say blue, I assume I'm gonna say yellow, even though it's maize. Yeah, I know.
I wasn't gonna say anything.
There we go. That's your name. Hey, everybody.
Be honest. Why you feel like Jared Goff is gonna have a big day on Sunday? You went back. You watched the tape from 2017 when they played the Giants in a rain-soaked.
That's right. The
rain,
51 point.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I think that game plays out obviously a lot differently if Goff doesn't throw 3 picks. I mean, I even felt like they were kind of okay in about to get in control of that game at halftime. They were winning at halftime of that Bears game. But I mean, it's also worth pointing out that like those interceptions weren't just bad decisions by Jared Goff. They were forced decisions by Jared Goff, right? He was under pressure during a lot of those interceptions. And so,
yeah, I mean, even the one that didn't happen. Right?
Yeah. Right. And so
like we definitely need to take the page out of Ben Johnson's playbook that says wide receiver screen in the flat in the red zone.
Right.
On. Bye. See ya.
Doesn't
it feel like Goff makes that throw all the time?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he never, like it doesn't seem like he checks out of it or
right. And
does something else with it. It's like I'm doing this as soon as I hike the ball.
Yes. And he'll never like after he hikes the ball be like, "Oh, nope, I can't do that," and turf it or whatever or scramble or whatever. It's just like he has decided this is what he's going to do. And it's almost gotten him in trouble several times. But I don't know. Like there was this 2-game window with the Bears and the Packers where the offensive line wasn't it. And they were better last week against the Saints. They weren't perfect, but they were better. And I think more often than not, you should expect this offensive line to block well. And yes, the Bears defense is getting better on the defensive front, but I still don't think it's good. I think it's average at best. It just looks a lot better because they were so bad.
It was
before.
so bad. Yeah.
But I will say, like, again, like that Monday night game against the Vikings, I was shocked at what was happening. I was shocked that the Vikings couldn't protect Joshua Dobbs. And by the way, that entire podcast, I was searching for Josh Dobbs' name in my brain and I couldn't find it, which is why I called him the Pastronaut.
But it felt natural. It felt natural.
That's because I'm a professional, Ryan.
Yeah, alrighty.
Jill, the plan right now is to do the raffle for Movember on Saturday after the Madden Sim. By the way, I figured out the Excel trick that everyone kept telling me about on Tuesday. I forgot what it's called, but I did it. And so I have everyone's donations amount totals, and I have how many raffle tickets that equates to on each email. I have all of that set up. I just have to now type in everyone's name, because the way I do it is like, let's say I'm looking MNUFC. You're getting you donated quite a bit, so you're getting 53 raffle tickets. So I'm going to have to write your name 53 times or once and then copy it 52 times and like put your name into the raffle the random name selector 52 times. Pivot tables. That's right. I figured out pivot tables. And so, yeah, that's the next step. I have the amount of raffle tickets for everybody. I just have to manually do that and put that all in one Word document and then copy and paste that into the random drawer, and then I'll be ready. So hopefully I can do that in an evening, like tomorrow evening, essentially. And just, it's data entry. I'm going to need an hour and a half of data entry.
Can't pay enough for good data entry. Like, if there's somebody out in tech land, right? Mm-hmm. Can they create a worthwhile transcriber program? Like, I mean, how much money would you pay for like
I mean, there's some people that work in this business that use transcribers and swear they're good enough now. I don't personally prescribe to that belief, but
yeah. Feels like there's just $1 million out there waiting for somebody who puts that together.
And yeah, everyone is saying in the chat, like what I'm about to do manually is probably capable of being done either by Excel or AI or something, but the amount of time I'm going to put into searching in how to do that is about the amount of time it would take for me to just do it myself, so I'm not going to do it. Joshua, yes. So in order to donate, you did have to put down an email. So I do have the person that anonymously donated $5,000. I do have their email, and so they will be into the raffle. So yeah, they're gonna have a lot of entries. But yeah, I mean that's only fair. Just because you donate anonymously doesn't make you ineligible for the raffle. And I have ways to contact everybody. So we'll do that. The one thing I'll say is because it's an imperfect raffle system, just because I can't guarantee that I'm going to get a hold of the person who wins. So here also, to be clear, in case it wasn't clear when I wrote it, when you win, you then become ineligible for every subsequent prize. You can't win twice. So there comes an unfortunate situation where, let's say one of the big prizes gets won by someone and they can't take it, but they don't tell me that until after it's over. I can only pick from the people who haven't won any prizes yet to win that bigger prize, and it's just how it has to work.
It's not a perfect system, but
it's not.
It works for us.
Yeah. And listen, this is all for charity, so whatever anyone wins is just a bonus.
Yeah. Just like Malik Willis rookie cards that are autographed by me.
That's right. I wonder when I say like, hey, you won that, how many of them are going to be like, no thanks?
It hurts my feelings.
I'm sorry.
Also, real quick to highlight something. The moment I acknowledged that it felt like a compliment for you to say, like, watch Ryan do it first, I screwed it up. Like I totally made it seem like, oh yeah, like over on DraftKings, like there's an over that you should hit, and she's like, do I need to do that? And I was like, I'm sorry. Like I finally have felt confident.
It's weird that they got 2 plugs out of us today. When again, like we're not really sponsored by them. We are sponsored by BetterHelp.
Yeah, and they're not listening. And I'm not gonna say anything.
Whoa, don't.
Whoa. And they smoke it. McVeigh Rob, thank you.
I've been doing BetterHelp reads. I don't know if you knew that.
Have you?
I have. I'm not getting paid for it, but I've been asked to do some BetterHelp reads.
What's BetterHelp?
It's an online therapy.
Really?
Company. Mm-hmm.
You've been doing reads?
Yeah, reads for our podcast.
Wow.
I'm not getting paid for it. Fox Media is getting paid for it. I'm not getting paid for it. Go figure. But I do. I can't say that I use BetterHelp, but I do. I haven't in a while, but I do online therapy, so I can vouch for the process.
Yeah, I think it works for some people.
Do you guys want? I have to do another read. Do you guys want me to do a test run? Would that be fun to watch?
Is that too much pressure?
It's fine. I can blow it. It's
Nobody clipped that.
you said. Okay, yeah. So as JT Sam points out, I didn't even realize this until we turned off the feed on Tuesday. Lost in the chaos of raising nearly $10,000 in the last 2 hours was the fact that every time we crossed over another $1,000, we were supposed to do another spin of the Wheel of Pain, and we didn't do any of them. We didn't do any of them after 30K, which means we have 11 regular spins and 2 extreme spins.
We're gonna be paying these off into July. I don't know. Maybe we might need to have another I don't know. Not obviously not a big marathon stream, because that's I feel like you probably have one of those in you per 365 days
at best.
At best, right? But maybe I don't know. Should we do it in a bigger stream? Should we because it just feels you have to have all those things on hand. You know what I mean?
I have so many eggs in my fridge because I didn't smash any of them on my head yesterday.
Gonna have to do that pretty soon though.
Yeah, maybe.
That's what I mean. I don't know if we should do maybe a couple in course of a couple weeks. I mean, I don't know. I'm not trying to make the sausage right now. I'm spitballing.
Oh yeah. Also, the person who dropped 5K said 20 eggs for Eric.
I know, that was one of the best parts. They probably just wanted to see him get pelted again in his garage.
True. Who wouldn't? I remembered this morning about the liver and onion smoothie. I'm like, oh my god, I remember to do that. I don't even know how I'm gonna do that. Do I do I make a dinner of liver and onions and then throw it in, waste an entire entree that I make and throw it into a blender?
Dude,
is that what I have to do?
Yeah, that's what you have to do. Or I mean, honestly, just go order it from somewhere, right?
Yeah, maybe that's better.
But I don't know, where are you going to get liver and onions from?
Can I DoorDash liver and onions?
Oh my gosh, that sounds like intestinal pain.
Yeah.
Great. I know, RG, I was going to write Go Blue and Car Talk on my face, but then I remembered nothing else Movember's happening, so I wasn't going to run the risk of showing up with shit written on my face. And Jeremy just looking clean, and Taylor's who the hell is this guy?
She's not a random Taco Bell drive-through person. She might not be someone oh yeah, I just see this all the time.
I was about to have a 50-minute conversation with her, so
right.
I wasn't just grabbing my gordita crunch and leaving.
Oh, whoops. I am not beholden to the swear jar anymore. In fact, I should just delete it off the screen so I can say shit.
And I am still waiting on the beans, JT Sam. So that's what I mean. I feel like we'll probably talk about what we're going to do in terms of streams and spins and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll figure something out. We'll make it worth it. And we're not going to string it out months and months in advance. I mean, some of the things the hot one stream, that's going to take some time to prepare. We'll probably do that in the off season.
Oh, I can't wait to do that though. That's going to be fun.
That's going to be very fun. And Miko wants to host it, which would be fun too. And yeah, that should be fun. Yeah, well, the Benito Jones one, maybe we can do a little bit earlier, but again, that might be an off season thing. I don't know.
Dude, this off season is going to be crazy though.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I know it slows down, but the draft being in Detroit, I feel like it's so far off our radar, right? But
yeah, you said the D word. I don't appreciate that.
I'm sorry, Detroit. I'm sorry, I won't say it again.
Ooh, should we get those Lions overalls that they were selling right after? I feel like maybe we should.
Who's selling Lions overalls?
The Lions were selling big Lions overalls after the Benito Jones thing. Remember that
really?
he wore the overalls, and then a couple days later he had the Lions ones.
Yeah. Is that just on NFL Shop?
I don't know. Maybe. Probably. Is that tax deductible if we buy?
It is.
I feel like it's got to be
work related.
It's work related.
I don't know. I feel like the IRS is probably their ears just perked up.
Nah, it's fine. It's for
yeah, I do see them. But they're women's. Are there men?
JT Sam, we are working on plans for the draft. Oh, I still see the charity stuff is on here too. I'll say this about the draft. SB Nation has some inspirations to do some big stuff. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. Doesn't mean it won't happen.
Yeah.
But I'll also tell you this. I know this for sure. What we just accomplished on Tuesday got their attention. In particular, as it pertains to draft plans. Like I've been told that already. So, fingers crossed they help us out with maybe doing something big then. So we'll see. We're still 5 months away from that. 5 and change. So we'll see. 4 and change. Yeah.
They're out of stock on NFL.com.
That's
which sucks because they're $70. But they had like a 30% off coupon going right now.
Oh,
I know. Which would have been prime time.
Yeah.
And they're almost like $80 on Amazon. Bezos. He's just pissed he didn't get an NFL team.
He's pissed that tonight's Thursday game sucks.
That's his fault.
It is his fault.
It's been his fault for like 2 years now.
And their premier first ever Black Friday game sucked. It featured Tim Boyle.
It featured a Hail Mary pick six.
That's maybe the best thing that happened in the game, though.
That's true, but it also just goes to show.
Yeah.
Tim Boyle.
Yeah. No, raffle should be Saturday after the Madden Sim is what I'm currently planning.
Oh, it was Tua who threw that pick, right?
No, I think the Jets threw it. I think it was Tim
No.
Boyle.
No, I think Tua threw it. I'm just remembering that now.
I don't think that's right.
I think it's right. Chat, tell me I'm right. Tell me I'm right. Jeremy's secretly a QAnon person. That's why he refuses to believe his reality is augmented. I'm almost 99% sure.
Well, your chat is
no.
Yeah. That what 1%.
Was it Tim Boyle? Who returned? Oh, Javon Holland returned it. I didn't even have to look it up. What do you want me to do? You want me to go eat garlic?
No.
You want me to go drink pickle juice? I'll go get pickle
99%
juice.
sure, really?
I was really sure. I felt like I remember. It was wrong. I felt like I remember Robert Saleh being happy going into halftime, but it was definitely him just looking like this.
So the opposite of happy. Do you know what happy looks like? Are you face blind? I'm not judging. A couple alerts here before
better than being colorblind. Blue and yellow Bears fan.
Okay, all right. Nick the Greek 100 bits says, what the hell? Matt Patricia and Matt Nagy are starting a new podcast called Coach Mattitude, where they blame the most talented players for not fitting in their schemes. They also review chicken wing and meatball sub shops each episode. Blue Chew and Wing Zone are sponsors they have lined up. 1 bit as well from Nick the Greek. Sure. Matt Patricia burned out the transmission on the four-wheeler either because he was too heavy or because he kept spilling 7-layer dip in the gears. Silver Rush, 10 months subscribed.
Better.
Silver Rush, 10 months subscribed to the channel. Says, crowning, you guys are making me laugh. And Heat and Speed, thank you for the follow on Twitch. What's up, by the way, to the YouTube peoples? Hope you guys are doing good over there.
There's just something really funny about Matt Patricia spilling nacho cheese out of a boat and him just being like, son of a... It's just like getting home the gears.
My favorite thing that happened during... Not my favorite thing, but one of my favorite things that happened during Tuesday is when we were talking about how the Eagles defense has actually been playing worse than the Lions defense for the entire year. If you look at most statistics, not every statistic, but most statistics, they're worse. And then the realization that Matt Patricia is on that coaching staff right now. And then
wow.
And then suddenly everything made more sense, or at least made me a lot happier.
It's even better.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That's great.
That was a fun little aha moment. Not that, I mean, realistically, is Matt Patricia dragging that entire defense down? Probably not. I mean,
but do you have proof that he isn't?
I don't.
That's my. I don't know.
JT Sam, I haven't even checked for a while. But I'm pretty sure the answer to that is no. What does it have to be? 350 people subbing
I don't know.
and paying for their own sub. It's a really hard goal to hit. Because it doesn't include Twitch Prime subscriptions and it doesn't include gifted subs. So in case you don't know, on Twitch, they started a new program called Partner Plus, where if for 3 straight months, if we gain 350 paid subs by 350 individuals, like I said, that doesn't count if you're using your free Amazon sub, doesn't count if you're gifted a sub. We need 300 different individuals to pay for their own subs for 3 straight months. The 50-50 split that we get from subscriber income turns to a 70-30 split for good. We don't even have to keep up the for a full year. But I don't think we've come all that close. I think we had I don't know. I think we were 50 short last time or something. We really made a push, and we were just going to make one push for it, and if we didn't make it, we were just going to kind of try to have it happen naturally, and if it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. The good news is that we're now on YouTube, and that gives us another opportunity to expand our audience and reach new people, and who knows what happens from there. And then we get a little Danny Dimes.
Oh, Tommy DeVito.
Oh, Bridget Case just heard us? That's awesome. Good for her.
She's the Chargers fan? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah. I'll fix the donate stuff, and I'm sure the message keeps popping up to donate to Movember. I'll fix that all in due time.
So, Jeremy, Rakin is nice.
Yeah.
Thoughts on Justin Rogers' question to Campbell regarding injuries? I thought it was a legit question, but definitely rubbed Campbell the wrong way. I know Justin tweeted about it, about it, but how did you were in the room, right?
Yeah, I was. Because that didn't happen yesterday, right? That was Monday.
Yes.
Or, no, actually,
wait. No, it was yesterday.
It was yesterday. I wasn't in the room, but I did see it. I saw the interaction.
Neil Rule is right.
Wow. So yeah, in case you don't know, Justin was trying to find a delicate way to ask him, hey, is there any concern over your injury diagnosis process? Because several times now a player has come back onto the field and then after the game, they have been out for several weeks. Is there any, the way Justin phrased it maybe at first wasn't the best because he said, he said, he almost said guys are out there re-injuring themselves and making them miss more time. He almost stated it as a fact, which probably shouldn't have done. And I think that's the part where Dan took a little offense to, and he said, well, I think you're making an assumption there and you shouldn't be making that assumption. And I think Justin's response to that was yeah, you're probably right. But, and then he pushed a little bit further and said, okay, but is there any concern that the process you have right now in terms of diagnosing, in terms of putting players back on the field, does that need to be improved? And Dan mostly said no, but I think he also did admit that maybe Taylor Decker did exacerbate his injury because he was out there for an entire game after hurting it in the first quarter. But it's an incredibly delicate process because obviously Dan doesn't want to throw his medical professionals under the bus. He doesn't want to throw his players under the bus for maybe not reporting an injury. And that's the thing, part of the medical evaluation that you have on your hands in the immediacy is players telling them self-reporting. That's a huge part of the evaluation. And if they're not saying they're hurting, if they're saying no, it doesn't hurt that bad, I'm going to go out there and play, you kind of have to believe them. Even though that their motivation is play first. A lot of players' motivation is to play first, ask questions about the injury later. But I mean, that speaks to kind of like an overall, is this a problem with the culture of football, right? Where these players, we have to protect these players from themselves. And I think even that was part of Justin's question. Do we have to, is it the coaches and the medical staff's responsibility to say, hey, I know you want to go out there, but let's get this MRI done or whatever. I don't think they can do an MRI in the middle of a game, right?
No, I don't think they would get it back soon enough.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
In terms of the results or stuff, but I don't know, not a doctor. But I think a fair question though would be to wonder, I mean, Jeremy, what's like the number one thing? And I hate to talk about the draft again, but like, what's the number one thing that Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes look for when they're evaluating talent?
Grit.
In reality, though, it's like they value guys who are football players, right? Like football is the thing they do. And when you have guys who are wired like that, you're probably more prone to guys like Brian Branch who are like, no, dude, I'll keep going.
They're going to play through an entire torn pectoral for an entire game.
CJ Gardner-Johnson, right? Like, yeah, you're going to get guys who are like going to, like, football's the thing they do, the thing they love. They're going to want to be out there. So, I mean, maybe that's just a byproduct too of, you know, having guys who are dudes on your team.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And so, you know, getting back to the main point of this, which is, was it a fair question? Did Dan overreact? I think it was a perfectly fine interaction about a very tough topic. I know Justin didn't take offense from it, and maybe Dan was a little bit irked from it, but if that's as irked as we see Dan, like, I mean, that is about as irked as we see Dan, which was like on any other coach's scale, a 2 out of 10.
Yeah, right. And also to Justin's credit, it's a really tough question to ask. Yes. You know what I mean? Like,
yes. I don't think I would have trusted anyone else in the room to ask that question more than Justin, to be completely honest.
Yeah, and I mean, even him, like, he had to, you know, work his way through it. You know what I mean? Put anybody else in that room and ask them, hey, we want you to, or tell them, hey, we want you to ask this question to Dan Campbell. You know, yeah, Liam, you're probably right. Maybe Carlos could handle it.
Let's can we watch it? Should we watch it? Let's watch it really quick. And just in case maybe you haven't seen it, maybe you want to see if you felt someone was being unfair or it was whatever.
We were on a guided museum tour.
Pulling it up.
Yeah, sorry. I had a radio spot to do tonight, and it sounds like it just got canceled. So I'm not saying I'm happy about that, but I would like to go to bed earlier today, and that was a 9:45 spot on Boston radio. The only reason I say irked is because he was like, maybe don't make that assumption, which is
particular. Obviously, you know, the injury last year. He's been back this year, hasn't played a whole lot. What's he still need to look?
Let me pull up the transcript so I know about how far into it happened. Campbell. Injuries. That is endish. Maybe like right there.
Because I think if we really felt like, man, they're going to make this thing work, we're not putting them back in there. It's coaches, man. With psyche of the players, the coach, all of it. You know, there's and so I think it's a huge part of it. You know, you got to be able to do everything, but in situation there's a fine line. I think that, but it's also, look, man, we're a village here, staff and the coaches, but also push and get the most out of these players. So I think it's all encompassing.
The things that stood out since you've been here is you kind of protected players from themselves.
Great. There we go. This is all right. All right. Let's share it so Ryan can listen as well.
Thank you.
Yes, we get sent transcripts from some Lions interns that transcribe, but sometimes when it's like a big quote, we'll just transcribe it ourselves because I do record everyone with audio. So.
Oh, also, I was not advocating for people to have their jobs taken away. Okay.
When was that? What?
By saying that, like, somebody should create like a computer AI app that transcribes for you. Like, I'm not trying to take away interns' jobs.
No.
It's out of these that are good communicators and they can relate, but also push and get the most out of these players. So I think it's all encompassing.
The things that stood out since you've been here is you kind of protected players from themselves through the week and not letting them push through injuries. You've always been kind of conservative with that. A couple times in games this season, Branch and now McNeil, they've come back into games and seemingly made the injury worse. And I'm wondering if there's anything that needs to be reevaluated through that process, just because it's different in game with the adrenaline. And
how do you know they made it worse?
Well, they played and now he's going to miss 4 games, or he came back and played and then Branch missed, I think, 2 or 3. So I guess that's an assumption.
I'd be careful on that assumption. Because I think if we really felt like, man, they're going to make this thing work, we're not putting them back in there. It's not worth all that, to where, all right, man, we can see if he can limp along and now we're going to lose him for 6 weeks. We're not doing that. But if the player thinks they can do it, then, and that's like Mac went back in there, he tried, hey, it doesn't feel right, it came back out. But it wasn't, so I don't feel that way. But what are you asking?
Yes. Do you have to protect the player from himself? Because you're asking the player in these situations, is this a situation where you need to evaluate a little bit more closely and you make the decision?
Absolutely. And I think that, to me, there's a difference between, you get some of these, you think you're going to make them worse. Like these can become significant if it's not worth it. But if these are the thing's stable, it's a pain issue. Now whether you can deal with it or not, that's up to the player. It's not. But I think those are a little bit different, And if it's not going to get worse, he's going to have to deal with pain. He wants to go back in. I'm all for it. But if we feel like, man, we could put this player behind, and relative to the production we're going to get out of him being less than 100%, it's probably not worth it. Then we don't want to do that to our guys,
Justin Fields. I mean, you look at him. I guess.
So I think there might be one follow up a little bit later where I think at one point he does admit that Decker may have made his injury worse when he came back out there. I don't think that part happened during that part, but I don't know. I just to me that there was a little bit of tension at the beginning, right? He says I wouldn't make that assumption, and then he kind of. I don't know if that was him forgetting what the question was, or if that was him a little bit annoyed, going like, "Okay, so what's the question?" Maybe there's a little bit of I don't like what you're insinuating here, Justin. But in general, I thought that Justin did a good job following up and be like, okay, he answered is well, this is why I'm making this assumption, because these guys came back in and then they missed multiple weeks. And so I can tell you for certain, there's no bad blood between these two right now. I don't think it was an unfair question. And part of the reason I don't think it's an unfair question is because so much of what the medical examination that goes on is a mystery to all of us, right? If Aleem goes to the sidelines and the doctors think he has a knee sprain, which is what he had, how are they supposed to know what degree of sprain is? Again, I'm not a doctor, so I don't even know the terms. How do they know how big of a sprain is it? Is it a minor sprain? If Aleem is saying I'm fine, let me go back out there.
Is it mild? Is it severe?
Right.
Because like Campbell said, right, it's a pain thing, right? And he was really clear to say too, that's up to them, right? If they feel like they can play through it, they're going to play through it. The other thing I liked about Justin's question though is he definitely tried to ease into it.
Yeah, he does it. He does the compliment sandwich thing very well.
Yeah. Dan's probably totally aware of it too.
Yeah. He leads into the question with listen, you guys, and he's right though too.
No, he is. He's very right.
He's right that the Lions, out of all of the teams that I've covered, seem to wait the longest on players getting back from injury. Right? It's okay. Now you're starting practicing. Some teams will okay, you're starting practicing. Okay, you're going to play on Sunday. A lot of times with the Lions, it's you're injured, you start practicing, and then 2 or 3 weeks later, then you're in the lineup. And not every team does it that way. And so no. I think it was smart for Justin to point that out and saying listen, We know you're not like this evil guy that are pushing people onto the field that aren't ready. But this process seems like it's maybe not working as it should. And I think, again, an entirely fair exchange between reporter and coach. And I don't think there's a controversy here, but I think there's still room to say, like, well, maybe there does need to be a little bit more of a thorough exam here that happens. And if you're opening those can of worms, it is certainly not just the Detroit Lions that need to be part of that conversation.
Yeah, right. I guess the thing is too is like if there's been anything about the staff, and I'm not saying like there is a problem definitively, but
sure,
like I mean, stuff that happened with Jeff Okuda, and I always forget the official title for the person who was let go from the training staff. I feel like it was like that. You remember this though? It was the head trainer, and they switched it up like in the middle of training camp.
Tyrell Crosby, right?
Yeah.
That whole thing.
So I don't know. It seems like there's just, but like you said though, the Lions are more conservative in terms of their approach to rehabbing players and making sure that they're right before they get on the field.
Yeah.
So
Tyrell Crosby is really the only counterexample to this regime being insensitive about injuries. And it's a weird outlier that doesn't, I mean, there has been no other accusations, anything like that. And I mean, sometimes when you're in the middle of regime, some of those stuff doesn't come out until after they're gone, but there's not even an inkling that the line that is a institutional problem.
No. And I will say though, like not from a player, but I mean, you remember the very kind of like pointed comments that Deuce Staley made about DeAndre Swift. And I'm not trying to say anything about that, but I'm just saying, I mean, it truly, from the outside looking in, it doesn't seem like there's any like added pressure. I mean, like even somebody like Emmanuel Mosley, right? Like a guy for all intents and purposes, we assumed that he was going to be ready to go, and then like Detroit was super careful with bringing him back, and there was no rush, even though they desperately needed a cornerback.
Right, J-Mo.
Oh my God, J-Mo.
Yeah.
Even the ramp up period too, though, right, Jeremy? Like think
super
about
slow.
J-Mo gets back on the field, right, and it's like 6 snaps.
Right.
Then it's like 12 snaps the next game.
Even do you remember what the initial prognosis was for James Houston? It was like 8 to 12 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's been 3 months.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah. Even the veteran players too, though, right? Like Bruce Irvin.
Yep.
You bring Bruce Irvin in. I mean, he has to get acclimated and all that stuff, but like Tyson Alalu, probably going to be not going to see him this week.
No. I am curious what they're going to do, because
they need him in a hurry.
Well, they need somebody, and I don't know who it's going to be this week. This week, I legitimately don't have any idea, which is usually I feel like I have a pretty good idea. This week I don't. And I thought it was going to be Levi. I thought, like, okay, you're going to want to still have that interior pass rush from somebody. And you have a bunch of nose tackles that you can pull from. You have Broderick Martin.
Yeah.
You have Isaiah Buggs. None of those guys are going to provide some pass rush for you. And then I asked today, I finally got it. There's an ongoing joke in the press room right now that I can't get a straight answer out of AG. Because I'm like 0 for 3 in a row where he's like you know what AG sometimes does during those pressers. He gets a little combative for whatever reason or whatever. I got one off today.
Maybe his defense has given up a lot of points, so
maybe
he just feels that way. I don't know.
But I asked him about Levi. I said, because he said like one of the issues with Levi is he's just not getting enough time on task. And I said, well, this seems like maybe an opportunity to get some time on task. Do you think this is an opportunity where he can get some of that, some much needed experience? And then his answer was basically, we can't bring up everybody. Just like, it was a much longer answer, but it was just like, listen, you're like, yeah, we're not just going to bring someone up to bring someone up. they need to earn it, and it's a delicate balance with our roster where we can't bring up everybody that we'd like to play. Would he benefit from the snap? Sure, but we have to make sure we're putting the best guys out there as well. I'm like, all right, Levi's not playing cheese.
Yeah.
And I could be overanalyzing his answer. He might just be making a bigger point about like, yeah, we'd like to get Broderick in there. We'd like to get Levi in there, get all the young guys in there so they can get playing experience, but we can't do that.
Yeah.
But it sure sounded to me like, yeah, I don't know if I'm expecting Levi to be off the inactive list this week.
I'm best case scenario for while Aleem is on IR is that Aaron Glenn just walks into something that works with the defensive line. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, like, I mean,
you're not just like leading the blind type of situation.
Right.
Like,
yeah. And I think the other thing, very clear, like losing McNeil is terrible. Like, it's not good. Like, as Taylor pointed out on the podcast, like there's not one person that the Lions can just pluck and say, okay, like you're going to be one of the top 10 run defenders along the interior defensive line in the NFL, and you're also going to be the only guy who generates any kind of pressure in the middle of his defense in the pass rush. Like, there is no one player who does that.
Right. By the way, this Red Wings San Jose game is going bonkers right now.
There's people in the chat that are saying like Huso's got to go.
I get alerts every goal, and I feel like since the podcast has ended, there's been 7 goals in that game.
It's 4-3.
It's 4-3. All of the goals in the second period. From it literally in a span of what looks to be about 7 minutes of game time.
And the Wings were up 4-0, and now it's 4-3.
Yeah.
Dude. Yeah. Look, there was a goal 12:51, a goal at 13:04, a goal at 13:40, a goal at 14:08, a goal at 14:46, a goal at 15:52.
This is insane. Yeah, the first one was with 9:05 left in the second, or 9:05 into the second period.
6 goals in the matter of 3 minutes?
Yeah, 4 minutes.
I don't know.
4, but yeah.
I don't know if I've ever seen that.
That's pretty insane. 2 shorties on the same power play?
Oh, that's just not good.
Oh man, it was San Jose with the shorties too. Dang. That's insane. Yeah, it's a no goalie game. That makes sense. So they're just it's one of those games where they play without goalies. Now it makes sense.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that was the doorbuster for the Red Wings game today.
Yeah, the NBA has their little in season tournament. The NHL this year, they toyed around with those no goalie games. By the way, who was it that randomly threw the tweet of mine on Mad Men in here, and why? Someone else threw that at me on Twitter today. Why is that making the rounds? Some line Twitter. Me on Mad Men.
Oh, didn't Eric made like a really dumb joke? Remember he said the Don Draper show?
Oh yeah, on Tuesday.
Yeah, during the stream.
I don't think he made a joke. I think he literally couldn't remember the name Mad Men, and he called it the Don Draper show, and it killed me.
That. You're turning him into an old man. Do that.
But that's, I mean, that is what happened.
Is that the joke? That's what happened.
It is both what happened, and he is an old man.
Oh man, he was that close to saying Pokemon on stream.
We should probably get out of here relatively soon because Eric does actually use our Zoom.
Oh yeah, he needs
at some point when to record his podcast. Of course, since it is a competitor's podcast, maybe I just stay on here forever and say, you know what, the Detroit Lions Breakdown podcast is no more. I'm canceling it.
That's a huge flex. But I know for a fact that Jeremy does not have that left in him.
Absolutely not. I mean, I could just leave the Zoom open and walk out the room. I wouldn't do that though.
What if you find out that you're a sleepwalker? You leave your stream on and then you just wake up in the middle of the night?
Nah, I listen. I mostly listen to it. Not every week, but I listen to the show. I like it.
Just start doing up downs.
No.
In your sleep?
No. Casey, this is a great time for Bugs to showcase some film for his next team's contract. I mean, yeah, maybe. I guess Bugs maybe gets a look. I'm not too excited about what I think I've deduced the most is that I think we're going to get a lot of John Kaminsky inside. A lot. And I hope that doesn't take too much away from run defense.
Yeah,
This would be a bad week to lose a little bit of oomph there.
Yeah. It almost feels like, though, the thing I'm hoping they luck into is Josh Pascal. Like, just him being on the field a lot more.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that more Pascal is good.
I think that's
like,
I mean, you can see him on
good.
the inside as well too, for sure.
Yeah. Sweaty doofus. Don't be mean.
Jill, good question about the Saturday game. Is that next week? It is, right?
Yes. The 16th, right?
I have to get the schedule from the Lions first to see when all of their press conferences are, when my day off is going to be. I imagine Friday will be my day off, so we'll probably do the Madden Sim on Friday. I don't know when we'll do the First Byte podcast. It might mean that we have to sacrifice the midweek mailbag again. And then since it's a night game, we're obviously not going to do the main POD cast then. Maybe we just do the main POD cast in our normal Sunday night spot. What are the games? Let's look at what the games are next Sunday night. Because the one thing that we hate about doing the podcast in that Sunday... Oh, my God, it's 4-4. What an insane period of hockey.
There were 8 goals scored in the second period in a 4-4 game.
Okay, so the Sunday night game that week is Ravens-Jaguars, which is a good football game, but not relevant to the Lions' playoff contention. Eagles-Seahawks is that Monday night, so we probably don't want to do it during Monday night. So, I don't know. Maybe we'll do the main POD cast Sunday night. Maybe get some sort of post-game show thingy up Saturday night. But we'll keep you up to date as we kind of figure it out. Eric does a lot of ego flexes now, and I want him to be happy and do that, but Joe Kania keeps him in line in sincere Eric mode. Yeah, I gotta learn Joe's secret, because sometimes when Eric gets like that, and on the midweek mailbag, I let him walk all over me. I gotta be like, Eric, you're being an idiot right now.
You have to learn Joe's like Jedi mind tricks.
Yeah. Joe's
good question. I've never met Joe. No, wait. I think I met Joe. I don't remember meeting Joe though. Will there be more goals scored in the Red Wings Sharks game or points scored on Thursday Night Football?
I think I got an alert that someone scored a touchdown right off that the Patriots scored a touchdown.
Elliott.
Oh, I thought maybe it was like a kick return touchdown or something.
It's 7-3. Just a bit over halfway into the first quarter, and this over under was set at 30.5 by Vegas.
I was the words out of my mouth of there not being a punt yet were interrupted by a punt.
It was almost a perfect football game.
Almost. All right, but I think we should probably get out of there.
Yeah.
Jason, I was able to rest a little bit. I stayed at home yesterday. I still worked. I didn't sleep particularly well, but I took a micro 10-minute nap literally before this podcast. And I'll probably be going to bed relatively early today, despite the fact that On Paper is not done or started. I mean, the charts are done.
The Groundhog Day. There it is. There's the reassurance, everybody. That's I did one other quick funny story about yesterday was I think I can't remember why I messaged you. It was like kind of earlier in the morning, or maybe it was like getting towards noon, but I like messaged Eric and I was like, has Jeremy talked to you today? Like, it was like maybe the first time where I was like, I'm worried, like, is Jeremy just sleeping? Like, and then Eric went into full like, oh, well, he's probably on his way to work. And I was like, I don't know if Jeremy's gonna make it to that. Like,
you're talking about yesterday?
Yeah, because he was like,
Were you messaging me and I wasn't answering? Or I just hadn't said anything?
Yeah, you just hadn't said anything. Like I wasn't even like bugging you or anything. I forget what it was. I'm gonna look back. But anyways, yeah, because it was around noon. Because Eric was like, "Well, he's probably on his way to the presser right now," and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's probably what it is."
Nope. I decided as soon as I woke up I wasn't going in today. Eric dropped it on Tuesday night. He's like, you don't have to go in if you don't want to. Like, you can just watch it on. We'll be fine if you just watch it. And then I was mad because one, it was the presser right after the only McNeil IR, so I'm like, okay, we're gonna actually get some news. And then I see like, oh, James Houston's in the locker room, and everyone's talking to James Houston, and I'm just like, of course I miss out on the one locker room day that actually kind of mattered. Not that they don't matter, but
I found what the message was, by the way, and it was. I think I had waited a long time to send it because I was like, Jeremy's not like posting anywhere, doing anything. Like at 11:40 a.m., have you considered what you're writing about for Pride of Detroit Direct? LOL. And then 30 minutes later at 10 afternoon, LOL, come on.
That's right. I remember that now.
And I screenshotted it and sent it to Eric.
Wow. I thought Slack was a safe haven.
It's not. And you know what? I'll just just like the Berlin Wall, I'll break it down because I'll tell you Eric's response, which was very funny to me. Damn it, Jeremy, not all of us write as fast as you.
No, I'm not gonna do a wheel. I'm sorry. Can you hear the tenor in my voice right now? I don't got the energy. But Andrew Mallow, thank you for the follow. 100 bits from Joshua Mercer says, you look like a young Larry David in your cameo. You mean in the Mad Men cameo? Did Larry David have a Jufro like that? Let me look up a young Larry David.
I thought
oh my God, he did.
I thought he was referring to like a cameo that you recorded. I was like, is Jeremy on Cameo now? He's on Feet Finder
Holy
and Cameo.
Lord. Look at a young Larry David. I've never seen this before.
Are you pulling it on screen? I want to see it.
Do you have the stream up?
Yeah, I'm watching the stream right now. Oh,
what in
wow.
the world?
I mean, just hope that you don't bald like that, though.
Yeah, no, I don't plan on it.
At that point, do you give it up?
Probably. I don't know. I don't know.
I guess I don't know.
I think I would because listen, like I think people I'm getting pretty gray on the sides at this point. There's it's not that much of a secret, and I feel like some people would fight it off, and I'm not happy about it, but I'm not going to fight it off.
Yeah, and I'm really happy that we didn't get I shouldn't say this, but like I'm happy we didn't get over the threshold for you to shave your head because I would be legit worried about it coming back.
As soon as that $5,000 donation came in, I got
you got
nervous. I got real nervous. Because at that point I'm like, okay, we're probably gonna hit 40, and if we're gonna hit 40, like we are gonna like tattoo is very very close. And some people in chat were asking questions too, like if we hit 45,000, will you get the tattoo on your neck? I'm like, oh,
no.
First of all, no. But like the fact that you're asking that makes it sound like
you got money to donate.
If you make it worth it, I'm gonna do this. And I'm like, nope. Because that's been my fear every year too. Is that it really only takes one person with a lot of expendable money to fall upon our page, or if I don't expect this to ever happen, but like a Lions player that maybe we bring on, or a Lions coach that has a bunch of money and is just like, this would be a cool, fun thing for me to do. Let me throw 10 G's at this charity. Like that changes everything in such a big hurry.
Yep. Yeah, had we gotten close to 50K, it would have been a really tough conversation to have with Amanda. That like, look,
you were on record saying if we were 1,000 away, you were gonna close that gap.
Yeah. I was gonna close that gap by probably spending the money that we would have spent on the rest of the Christmas gifts. So I'd have been like, yeah. I
Here's your
instead of
Christmas
seeing
gift, just a framed picture of me bald.
Oh man.
Oh man.
Nick the Greek, and it's time to
I
go.
would never.
What an accusation.
Do you guys want to go watch some Thursday night football on Twitch? Is that punishment if I raid the Thursday night game here on Twitch?
It's like you guys spin the wheel of pain.
You know what? Let's raid our good friend Bearded Blevins, who was nice enough to join us. Oh look, Ninja. Oh, his brothers are there. Ninja and Tyler and oh god, don't tell him I forgot his name.
Nobody will.
He's my favorite too. Don't tell him I said that.
Just exposing yourself. Stop.
Chris. His name's Chris. Yeah, we'll do the Blevins since John was nice enough to join us, and they're somehow attempting to enjoy this football game, and so I think that might be even more entertaining than the game itself. Watching people trying to enjoy this game. So we're gonna go raid the Blevins boys. We're gonna do John's stream. I don't know if they're all streaming, but Bearded Blevins. We'll be back for the Madden Sim Saturday morning in our usual spot, but we also plan on doing the raffle after the Madden Sim. So stick around for that. Hopefully I'll have everything in place for that. If not, I'll let you guys know either on Twitter or Discord or somewhere. Either way, that's what's next, and then we'll do since it's an away game, we'll be able to do the whole podcast on Sunday night. And I sure hope we're going to be into double-digit wins by then. You're muted, so whatever you're saying, I'm sure it's great. I didn't mute you. You muted yourself.
I just tried to angry stream leave out of the
wow.
Angry leave out of the stream.
That's
sorry.
No,
all
right, guys. We'll see you soon. I don't hate YouTube. I don't hate you guys, to be clear. We'll see you soon. Bye.
I'll let you know when I get a vibe.